Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second panel of the day for its fourth day, actually, of the CAE, where I am your host, Julia, or Juice, and I will be here together with these lovely people for the founding of an esports organization panel. Now, I'm sure many of you are aware, esports have very much been exploding in the mainstream and bleeding in, and obviously, there are a lot of opportunities to really be a part of that and really just learn like how to really be part of the esports culture, especially with esports.org. So you'll notice that the people we kind of have with our panel today are kind of come from like a huge range of like different experiences when it comes to esports organizations. But I'll let them let them kind of show off themselves, starting from I guess we can go counterclockwise, I guess, from the display. So starting off at Jack, I believe.
Hello, hello. Yes, great to be here. I run Third Sight. Got like the branded T-shirt. Yeah, we run watch parties and other types of Counter Strike things. So yeah, we are a Counter Strike org based in Ottawa.
Yippee! And thank you for being here, and nice to meet you, Jack. And I guess now, Emil, why don't you go show off to the crowd?
Sure. Vil Vinaka, my full-time slash day job is senior operations manager at 2K. As far as esports goes, I had founded my own esports org called Able Esports, Quebec slash Canada-based org a few years ago. Shut that down last year, or maybe 2 years ago. So we had teams in a bunch of different titles. We had a bunch of different sponsors. We organized both online and in-person events and podcasts. We had our tournaments, monthly Valorant tournaments, broadcast on television networks in over 20 countries. So it was really, really cool. Also had another company called Five Stack where we organized in-person and virtual weekly tournaments for Valorant and Counter-Strike for Quebec-based players. And then more recently, or in parallel, I also sit on the board of directors for the Quebec Esports Federation. So we run all the leagues in the academic space in Quebec, and Esport Canada, which runs the national teams, which some of you may see at FIFA E right now in Rocket League, and the Esports Nations Cup that's coming up. So yeah, a few different views on the esports space.
Just a few, only a little bit, only a few roles, not too
Keeping
much.
busy.
Very busy, but still really amazing. I do keep up. But of course, last but not least, Eric, feel free to introduce yourself, info dump about yourself, whatever you want. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm Eric, founder of Cupid Esports, where we compete in North America League of Legends. I'm trying to make a push for NACL this coming Open qualifiers. We also played in the recent ALGS champs, so hope to make a return the following year in Sapporo again. Outside of Cupid Esports, which is Cupid Esports, I also am co-founder of West Point Esports, competing in APAC, specifically Riot's PCS, based in the Philippines. But yeah, happy to be here. Excited to chat with you all, and yeah, thank you.
Oi, Philippines. But yes, happy to have which is outside of Canada, honestly. And I think it will bring for like a really interesting discussion. But I guess to first just jump right into it. A more kind of general question for all of you. In your opinion, what role do esports organizations kind of play within the overall gaming community?
Yeah, I mean, I guess can talk about that. I mean, I think, ultimately esports orgs, they are providing the platform for people to talk about esports. So if that's people then can if that org has like an actual team, people, talk about, oh, that roster, they should make those changes. Or if it's an organization who are creating in-person events, then to attend and talk to, meeting people. So I think without organizations, you don't really have that space or that kind of maybe reason to kind of, talking about gaming in that sort of way.
No, yeah, I agree. Just to add on, I think esports orgs also play somewhat of a leadership role, influencing the community, especially the upcoming generations. They are the team slash role models, the players that a lot of the player base look up to. So I think just to add on, they also just help influence it, whether it's through community building, just influence, or just what direction they want to sort of shape the industry. A lot of eyes do look at these esports orgs, especially those that are in tier one. Even those like such as myself, that's working through grassroots. We also look at these upper tier one orgs as well. So I'm sure they have a lot of influence throughout.
Yeah, to echo kind of what the other guys said, but also to add a little bit. So obviously, esports a big marketing tool for a lot of a lot of game developers, but as both Jack and Eric said, that just doesn't exist without teams, i.e., orgs. So it's an interesting dynamic depending on the game developer, how those leagues do work with those orgs. Some are working really, really well and creating a kind of sustainable ecosystem for them. Others are struggling a little bit on the sustainability aspect. But yeah, if you lose that org aspect of it, the whole ecosystem starts to crumble. And that is the aspirational side of it, right? Like young kids are not just like, oh, I want to play Valorant at a really great level. It's no, I want to play for Cloud9. I want to be on FaZe. I want to be on whatever it is. And then at different levels of competition, when you go back down all the way to grassroots, they play a bit of a different role where you think about your local soccer teams and more of that aspect, more of a social role within the academic space. They play more of a structural role for esports. So it's not just the Wild West of going online like when we were kids and getting faced with just this chaotic world, but more of a structured role, exposing them to all kind of the different aspects that the ecosystem has to offer, not just the competitive aspect, but the broadcast aspect, the team aspect, the communications aspect, the kind of balancing your life and video games aspect. So orgs can play a lot of roles, and thankfully they were, and they still are, passion projects, but thankfully they're becoming a little more structured and a little more streamlined and healthy, I want to say, that they have been in the past, but remain obviously a crucial pillar of the whole esports ecosystem.
It's interesting. You all kind of bring up like different points that almost kind of come together, where it's like community is a big aspect, the whole operations of it, and how, like, team management, having those things exist in the space is so important. And like, at least from how I kind of understand it, where it's esports organizations like play an important role in kind of like helping define like the esports culture within the community, within the internet, that type of stuff. I think it's quite interesting how like diverse it is, especially with, like, as I said, you all kind of like have an esports org that is like, like they're all kind of different from each other. Like they're all like, they all showcase different things. And then I guess also kind of speaking on that, I know you guys also kind of, touched on it with your introductions and everything. But I mean, maybe if you wanted to share, I guess, a little bit of like how the steps you took, or like the journey you had when it came to kind of like getting to kind of where you are today, in whatever amount of detail that you are comfortable sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can go first. I mean, something that I was trying to start with is like, I was trying to, help, just kind of start like, hey, does anyone need help to, for their org? But unfortunately, it's quite hard when, for me, all I had was, I just like Counter-Strike. And so if you don't have any prior kind of knowledge, or it's tough for organizations to trust you to then volunteer. So eventually I just unfortunately didn't really get anywhere with that. But I think as a big positive of that is I decided to start my own thing. And so that's kind of where I started. Is unfortunately just no one really at that time just wanted my help, but started a small, just decided, here's this one Counter-Strike event, let's see if I can host something for that, and then get people to watch it. And that's where kind of I started. And kind of this other aspect, I think, of it, that I was able to then get these bigger brands to kind of sponsor my watch parties, is going to other um, you know, going not just in my region, but heading out and meeting these other people who are with these brands. Because I think it's tough to then just you want to try and get sponsors, but sending if especially brand new, you don't have like your brand established yet, trying to get these big companies to send you money or send you items to sponsor is tough. So something that I did is meeting these companies has been really good, and I was able to then get these really cool sponsorships for even like a small watch party. So I think that's something people can look to do is feel free to go to these other places and try to meet those brands there, because oftentimes too, like the people that you would be talking to online, they're going to be present at these other places, other gaming events.
I
You want to
guess
go, Eric?
I mean,
Oh yeah,
yes.
for sure, for sure. But yeah, no, for me, I guess I've always been a bit more interested on the internal side, like the operation side of esports, rather than the player side, I guess, because I'm not of that skill caliber, right? And so that kind of prompted me to push for the path to org, path as an org rather than path as pro player. And so with me with Cupid Esports, I guess because I'm based in Asia, but I was studying in the US for maybe 8 years. And so I figured, being able to start an esports org there is a really good way to still connect to the community that's there, one that I connected with while I was there as well. And so with Cupid, our main sort of kind of focus when growing is to work with the community to grow alongside the grassroots space. And so for the past 4 years, that's kind of been like our bread and butter, especially with League of Legends. We've really been working with the grassroots community there. Right now, hoping to sort of move with them into tier 2 as we compete, as I said, but we'll see how those go. But again, ultimately, pushing out events, trying to host watch parties, just trying to give the community more sort of initiatives and opportunity to watch, to play, to come together, and just to like support the overall esports industry. That's kind of been what we've been looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, those are really cool backgrounds, and I guess it's fun to hear Jack and Eric talk about it because myself come from like kind of a splice of the two. So like Eric, nowhere near good enough to be a professional esports player, or at least if I was good at some point, I'm way over the hill. And like Jack, I came in not necessarily looking to start my own thing, but looking for people who needed help. I guess unlike him, I came in with a lot of baggage. So I was and am a lawyer. I have an MBA, so I had a lot to offer esports orgs. So I went around and tried to figure out, which cool project to jump onto. Able Esports was just starting up with a local guy running it. I met him through a couple of events here. So to Jack's point, go to events, talk to people. It's a small world. So we kind of quote unquote co-founded that together, and then we tried to position ourselves in a way that would make sense and that would differentiate us from other orgs, because there are a lot of grassroots orgs, there are a lot of tier 1 orgs, tier 2, tier 3, whatever, all the tiers. If you do want to start generating some revenue and kind of sustaining some of the operations that you want to be building, it is challenging. Like there's absolutely no hiding it, but it's also doable. So we always had the perspective of we're not going to spend what we don't have, unlike some esports orgs that do the opposite. Let's do really cool, SHIT stuff, and the money will come. So that wasn't our approach. So we reached out to local organizations and local companies, and what we did was we differentiated ourselves by being Quebec-based, so having a lot of French language streams. What you can come to understand from companies that do want to kind of market to the underlying market of esports, which is huge, like you said, Julia, is that a lot of those companies that are more traditional companies have local budgets and they want to cater to Canadian consumers. However, as soon as your streams are in English, it's very hard to cater to Canadian consumers because a lot of your viewership is going to be North American rather than Canadian, given that we're a small percentage of the North American population. But like Jack is doing stuff that's in person, that'll give you more of that leverage and unlock more of those marketing dollars. Or like we were doing in French streams, where 95% plus we could demonstrate that 95% plus of our viewership was Canadian because they were from Quebec. Then that gave us a bit of a leg up on other organizations that were just way more broad-based and had the opportunity to get more competitive players because they have a larger player pool, but with less competitive players and a lot more marketing dollars that others would have. So it was an interesting kind of way to approach the situation. So differentiation is definitely something you should look at. In-person events we started doing as well, like Jack, because traditional companies are used to that kind of marketing. So you're speaking more their language than this, oh, I have this many impressions and this many viewers on a Twitch stream. And it's getting more understood today, but a few years ago was even less so. So yeah, approach it from different ways and definitely do the legwork. It's not easy, but it's definitely doable to fall somewhere super interesting.
Yeah, and I guess like since like again you all have different backgrounds that all kind of interlap with each other despite being from like you know like not like grassroots organizations or more community organizations, or I guess they are pretty similar, but my point is like you all have similar experiences and also like deeply contrasting ones that kind of like help complement each other. So I guess before I kind of get into the nitty gritty of like how do we get an esports org, I'd like to kind of like ask more about some of the things you guys touched on in case maybe there are some viewers who have similar values or interests, I guess, to the stuff that you guys do. So I guess starting to get a little bit personal, but not really. I'll start with Jack because I know hello, I like to ramble. I'll start with Jack, I guess. And I mean, I know like you mentioned it, it's like all over like your mission statement and everything.
Mhm.
A core aspect of Third Sight is community. So I guess like how are you kind of mindful of it within your daily operations? Like not just like from like, you know, like holding events or watch parties or live streams, but also kind of just like, you know, how the company operates as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, like the main thing is I want to build a space where people can come in and then they meet other people that just like the same things we all do. And so I think it's creating just a fun environment. And so I think hosting these in-person events is like that big portion of that, but also just online as well. I want to just make like a fun space. So that's like it's kind of the like big part of it is I just want people to have fun. I just want people to then meet new people, that like, hey, this guy he's in here, so he's gonna like the same things I do, follow Counter-Strike. So I think yeah, it's a big part of it. Is just creating just like a fun environment. And I mean, like the main thing is these when we go to like the in-person side of stuff, unfortunately, you can only run so many, per year. So of course, mainly it does happen online. So yeah, just trying to still almost create that, kind of fun in-person environment, but on line is kind of what I try to do.
No, it makes sense. And I feel like, especially with how notorious, I guess, the gaming space is for being toxic and whatnot, like it's important to have spaces like that. So
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's really interesting. I guess also kind of jumping over to Eric, I guess, because a lot of the organizations you do, especially Cupid Esports, are just like you described them as grassroots communities or grassroots organizations. So I
Yeah.
guess like what does that look like for you, and like what are the benefits of having a grassroots organization compared to like any other kind of structure that you could have employed for an esports org?
I think for me, personally speaking, grassroots organization was a really great way for me to learn more about not only how like I guess like the more raw side of the esports industry functions, but also kind of like what the community sort of looks for as well as just time to just sort of be more familiar with the space. And so yeah, that's pretty much what I would say. I guess for us, when it comes to for Cupid Esports and working with a grassroots, similar to how Jack was saying, we're really hoping to also be able to find a place for the community to sort of get together, to find that interest, and to share that passion towards not only cheering for a somewhat competitive team, but also to be granted opportunities to sort of get together and to share that common interest.
Yeah, I mean, awesome. I, what's it called? I know when I was like looking into like you and I guess like stalking you guys, I guess, like before this panel, like I don't know, like that seemed to be like what I kind of echoed amongst like with Cupid Esports or like with West Point or like all a few of your other
Yeah.
orgs. Like, I I I think it's cool. I don't know, like I was like trying to think of a way to say for the panel that it's like I think it's really cool that you're doing giving opportunities like this and like I don't know, like dedicating time to give spaces like this. I yeah, I think it's awesome. But I guess like enough glazing from me. Last but not least for Emil, you kind of touched on already, where like you kind of started off as like a lawyer, a business lawyer, I believe. And so I like again like all like we you guys all have like a lot of like different skills that you put in a job, but I think it's fair to say that like going from business lawyer to like esports director and etc. is a very big jump. So I guess I'm asking or curious about what were like things from when you were like actively practicing that you kind of carried over as like I'm really glad I have this like second experience that I kind of like learned from.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to come in with that kind of background and like be, I don't know, like a boomer in the space, I guess, in the sense that I talk the same language as a lot of the people that hold the purse strings on the sides of those sponsors. So it was a lot, I want to say, easier for me to kind of converse with them and convert those leads into actual dollars. Reason being, I knew what they were looking for, I knew what they needed from us, and I knew kind of how to present it to them in a way that would make sense. So from my legal and business background, what it let me do is come in with credibility. So one, looking at my credentials, they already trust you more than unfortunately when you're an 18-year-old that just loves esports. Like it's great, you can get stuff, but you have such a bigger mountain to climb without any other reason than you're just young and inexperienced. Two is it helped me kind of accelerate a lot of the stuff that we needed to do, like incorporate the company, like have the right accounting methods, like have the right return on investment kind of metrics. So it helped with a lot of that stuff. On the other hand, I was so far removed from my days of actually, gaming all night and whatnot, that the community aspect that these two guys just talked about was a little more challenging for me. So I kind of, surrounded myself with people who were better at that than I was, and that's where it was funny because most orgs struggle on the business side and are really good at the community side. And for Able, it was actually the contrary. Like on the business side, like we were, generating revenue, we were cash flow positive, but on the community side, we had to work a lot harder to build that. So we organized tournaments, in-person events, community nights, all that stuff, podcasts and whatnot, talked about the space, but that's where we had to put way more effort than on the side where most orgs put their effort. So depending on your background, you're going to have to leverage what you're good at and identify the gaps at what you're not so great at and try to fill those gaps with the people around you, which we did pretty well for a few years. And then eventually, you have to decide whether you make that jump into like a tier 2, tier 1, and where you like invest yourself full time and actually try to pay yourself or someone else a full-time salary. And that's where you have to decide whether you keep these projects up long-term or not. In our case, it just wasn't worth it for me just because of the, full-time jobs that I can have outside of esports, which is hard to translate into esports. But if you are younger, there are opportunities to get in there and really do something serious and full-time for sure.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that you mentioned also like the contrast with like I guess lawyer culture, or at least like the environment that you were in before, and then going straight to esports. Like, I think that's really interesting, especially like I can't speak for other esports orgs. I've only really been part of like my own colleagues. Like I'm from Humber, and I worked with Humber Esports. I can only really speak on that experience, and like a lot of people came from different backgrounds. Like I remember, like I was surprised when I learned, like, oh, there's just a comp sci guy here, and he's fully just doing production. And it's like, actually, no, I can see how they connect. Never mind, I get it. Or like this one guy who's graphic design, but then he like does everything, not for any reason, just for the love of the game. And like, I don't know, I think it really speaks to like, in a way, esports is like, it's new, but like it's still getting bigger as it kind of bleeds into the mainstream, I guess. And it's like people have been kind of finding their own opportunities, as like many of you did. Like with your orgs, you found your own opportunities and made them yourselves, which I think from what it sounds like seems to be a really important part when it comes to like founding your own esports org, which is like the passion and like I guess in a way maybe luck. No, I guess more what sort of opportunities you find and make for yourself. No.
There's a bit of mix of everything for sure.
Fair.
I agree.
But yeah, I guess that is really the case with most jobs where it's a lot of factors. But I guess still, like, kind of delving now away from the more icebreaky stuff and kind of more into the nitty gritty. So when it comes to like founding your org, so I guess I'd like to ask like very very loaded question, but like just for the sake of segueing in, like if some random person in the street ran up to you and was like, "I want to find my own esports org," like what would you tell them would be like the first thing they should do?
I guess like to speak real quick, one the first thing that came to my mind is um I guess the patience that comes within the industry. I don't think you're gonna look to see results overnight. I think it could happen over a night, just not over the first night. You know, you just gotta keep going at it and eventually it could happen. But yeah, you never know when it would come. You just gotta keep putting your head down, keep working at it, keep being, you know, the best version that you would want your org to portray, and just keep trying to, you know, network, etc. And eventually the opportunities will come, but you also have to put yourself out there too. You can't just make an org and stay silent and compete. You also have to do everything that falls under it, which is also like the marketing, as we mentioned before, many times working with the community, trying to create opportunities, etc. And yeah, those are just the first things that come to my mind.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think.
go ahead,
Sorry.
Jack.
I think too, something is start small. I think I see sometimes these like people who out like they will just like announce just these huge tournaments and it's like brand new, org, and it's like, where did you come from? And you're announcing like $100,000 tournament, if not more. And I think unfortunately then those tournaments then they don't go anywhere. They fail. But then what will happen is no one's going to trust you if you then release, if you then come back and try to start that up again. So I think it's really important, it's great to have those, big plans. But I think starting small, run something small, and then from there, then start to build up. And then you're going to get people who then will then trust you, which I think is really important because esports, I think there's a lot of, some people then don't really have that much trust because of all of these maybe like scams almost, or these random $1 million things that just come you're like, where did this tournament come from? So yeah, I think definitely start small, I think is important.
Yeah, I think that's great from Jack. And I mean, my first reaction would be if someone asked me whether they should start an esports org, I'd say no. But um, I guess the more nuanced answer is like, why are you doing it? Where do you want to get to with it? Calibrate your expectations, kind of like Jack is saying, and like make sure you're surrounded by the right people. Like Eric said, it's a long process. You got to stick with it for the longest time. Like it's not gonna like you're not gonna get paid for it. It's just gonna be a passion project. So you better make sure you really have the passion to see it through. Like so many orgs like pop up overnight and then are dead 2 weeks after when these people are like, oh my God, it's actually hard to get a sponsor. And my players keep rotating and I keep losing them. They keep going away. And oh my God, just to get jerseys costs me $100 a player. Anyway, but start small is really cool. And that was our approach. Don't spend what you don't have. Start small, calibrate your expectations, do little things, and then check. Our first sponsor was $500 for 3 months. And then we came back after 3 months and we showed them, here's what you gave us, here's what we had promised you, here's what we actually delivered. And oh, they signed back for $1,000 over 3 months, and then 3, and then 30. So like, grow those relationships, build that trust, like Jack said, don't burn bridges. Think long term, make sure you're jumping into a project that you actually want to jump into. And like there's no shame in failing, there's no shame in giving up. Like you learn from all those experiences as well. Myself have closed my esports org, I've closed my leagues, but I learned so much and I met so many people, and I really, really appreciated those experiences. So by all means, get out there, do it. So I'm going back on my first answer of don't do it, but like figure out why, figure out what you need, get out there, try a project, learn a lot in the process, and just make sure you're doing it the right way and not burning yourself and your credibility out there.
Yeah, I find it interesting that it's like you guys mentioned, like, there is like the nitty-gritty of it where it's like, networking, making those connections, like, and like just doing little things to build yourself up, but also managing your expectations. Cause I feel like a lot of people don't realize how much, like, as you guys said, like how much of a passion project this really is. And I guess like that kind of mentality of where it's like, okay, this is something I really want to do and I'm really passionate about, but I don't know if it'll work. Like, was that really a thought process that you guys kind of had when it came to developing like your first orgs or like something you may still have now, or is it kind of just something that you've kind of like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I'll do it, and then whatever happens, happens. It's okay.
I jumped into it personally because of how interesting I found the industry. I really like the fact that nobody had or even has kind of figured it out yet. The business model for esports orgs is not yet figured out.
Yeah.
The tier ones are struggling hard, and we're being artificially propped up by a lot of money now coming out of Saudi that delayed a little bit that esports winter that everyone was talking about a couple of years ago. So that's why I got into it. It was purely interest combined with passion. So I didn't have an aspiration necessarily to be like, oh my God, this is going to be the next big thing. But I was like, you know what? I love video games, competitive video games. I always went to LAN events, I played online tournaments. Like, why don't I try to put my skills to good use where, like Eric, I'm not going to be a pro, but I'd like to stay in the scene. So let me build something with other people, build a community, give back to something that I like, and then see where it goes. And there are opportunities where it might become something full time or something more serious, but that's not necessarily what will always happen. But along that path, you'll develop skills and relationships that are definitely valuable.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, I mean, I never really thought like maybe this might fail per se, just because there isn't that much around. So it's like, where do people go to watch Counter Strike in like the region? Well, like there is barely any events, so even just a watch party, I think people would really like. Um, and yeah, I think it's definitely important when you're going into it. You're going in it because you love the game, you love the space. I think you're making sure you're not going into to make money, because no one in esports is making money. I think we can all speak. The people here with these organizations, we're doing this because we just love the space. And so I think that it's not to scare people that you're gonna lose money, but unfortunately it is something that it's definitely tough out there. But as long as you're really passionate about it, and you have fun with it, I think then it doesn't really matter that much, because yeah, there's so many good things that you can make out of it. um and so yeah, I mean, I think it's just great to just start.
Yeah, I guess like one thing that we all have in common is the passion and the love for the industry. Same as you guys, yeah. Was into it also because of passion and interest towards it. But similar to what Emil was saying, the industry is so new. Maybe slight delusion of my younger self, but thinking like, where could this be if I just, as I said, like put my head down and just see where it could take. My first ever esports org, after a summer period, I got pretty burnt out, and so I just put that in the archives. And then maybe after like 7 months, 8 months of just keeping the back of my mind, I really thought like, oh, this is something I want to actually try to do properly, and not like give up, like halfway as yeah. So that's kind of what led me here. Fortunately, some opportunities have lined up. I was able to expose myself through different facets of the industry. That kind of gave me some kind of assurance that this could work if it did work. Not just got to keep waiting for that overnight success, as we were saying earlier, right? But yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it too.
Sorry, I was like cutting in and out. I had some tech issues on my side. So I did hear some of the answers, but not all of it completely. But I won't make all of you repeat it again. Just letting you know that, so I don't sound like an idiot if you're like, I already said that. But But yeah, I still caught like a little bit of it, and like yeah, I think that's really interesting that it's like you're all at the end of the day individuals who are like motivated by passion, and it's like having faith like despite all the failures like that you went to, which is realistic, honestly. Like if anything, I personally think failures give for more knowledge and more interesting experiences, and obviously that kind of reflected for you guys throughout your career. But I guess also I'm curious if there are any kind of like differences within the way certain organizations may operate, depending on like what kind of organization it is you got like or someone would want to do. And I guess I'll start with collegiate asking for that, because I know you all vastly have some experience with it to some degree. So I guess like, is there any special steps when it comes to making a collegiate esports program compared to like your traditional or typical esports program?
I think you're going to fall into some of those similar struggles, but you're going to try to solve for them in different ways. So collegiate obviously also has a funding issue, as all esports orgs do, but to get funding at the collegiate level is also a recognition kind of threshold that you need to get if you actually want to be a team of that college. So depending on the college or the school that you're at, you may have to go through a lot of administrative process, one, to just be able to use the name of the school, and two, to get funding for whatever it is that you want to do. And then from the recognition standpoint, are you going to be a student club? Are you going to be a student union? Are you going to be a varsity team? At what level of recognition will you be? And that'll also play on the number of funds that you have. Beyond that, finding an internal champion. Is it student run, or is it run by a teacher or a professor or a coach or whatever it is? And what kind of organization do you want to have? Do you want to compete, or is it just you want a video gaming club? Because those are two different things, and they can evolve. Like Jack said, you can start small and you can grow, or you can do an event at the ETS here. So one of the engineering schools, they run a LAN event for the last 22 years, the biggest one in Canada, and that's where the thing started. And now they have competitive teams for the school. So yeah, it is different if you're running it out of the school. I think you can get more support, but you can also run into more roadblocks. So sometimes it's actually easier to do it at the school because of that structure and that funding if you unlock it. But sometimes it's a lot harder because honestly, starting your basement org, like you could do that today. You build up a logo, you get 5 friends, and you have a team, right? So it depends. It depends what you're striving for and whether those doors are open or not.
Yeah, and I think too, something that like can happen is that I've kind of seen is each school will kind of do esports a little differently, and I think one of the big things that's still being kind of still is kind of like a big issue is how the school is going to deal with certain titles, so titles with guns. And so some schools then won't fund those games, and so that's definitely something that will definitely be tough for each of your like schools. And then I think too, I think one thing that I've seen in some schools is when you do set up, then the actual like school is making sure that, because often these are run by the people at the school, but the students eventually they will leave. So I think it's important that you make sure that there's new students always in that system, because then what can happen is all of the leaders are then, once they graduate, well, now there's no one actually running the actual school, the program. So I think that is something to make sure, because there are some cases where that team is just dead because every one of the leaders are now graduated, but then there's no one new. They don't have the access to like post stuff on social media because the person who had access to that, they're now gone. So yeah, I think that's something that I've kind of seen.
I guess I guess you guys both said pretty much everything I want to cover. But just to highlight some specific points that I definitely agree with. Like one is the new wave of talent, whether it's like student staff, and just making sure that transition is easy, because that does happen very often. You see clubs closing, clubs reopening, just a lot of inconsistency, lack of communication. Um, And then also same with what Emil was saying with budgeting and stuff like that, and the comparison between a basement org versus like that collegiate org. If you're able to get that support from a collegiate program, obviously that sort of increases the ceiling of where the team can hit, but also just needs to recognize like where you want to take it. Is it like just a fun campus org, or is it really like a college team, and I think when you make that differentiation, I'm sure um, these um, these colleges definitely expect different sort of engagement from you as well. So just being able to understand that and knowing where you'd want to jump into.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I feel like you guys nailed a lot of like the important parts for collegiate because yeah, I feel like at least from my own experience, like within an org like that, like just kind of like how other orgs are like our orgs outside of collegiate are also figuring things out. Like it feels like collegiates are kind of like really figuring things out, and it's not even like their fault. I would say like there are a lot of programs that I see that I wish they had more support, but also kind of like they're doing amazing with what they have. So like that's great. And I guess like we already talk about it a lot throughout the panel, but I'll still ask in case there are specific points you want to highlight for like starting an esports org like outside collegiate, like not a tier one org, but like like just maybe a community organization or their own grassroots organization, or just like something smaller scale, I guess.
um don't be afraid to fail, try things, build, like Jack had said earlier, build small, iterate. Things don't have to be, what's that saying, perfection is the enemy of good, or something like that. The things don't have to be perfect day one. You can throw an event, it can be something that you're not necessarily super proud of, but then the next iteration will get better and better and better. And try, if you are kind of looking at an org, try to understand which type of org you want. Is it more of just a place for amateur casual people to chill and build a community? Is it more of a competitive org? Is it more of an event organizer? Is it all of the above? And it can change with time, but when you do set that, then you can start to understand where you fit in the ecosystem. And if you do want to start bringing in funds, you can start to tell a better story of how you're different from other things, or why they should put money or prizes on you. Like Jack explained for himself, there is nothing like this where I live. Like, I am the first to do in-person Counter-Strike watch parties, and that's great, and there is a community for that. So yeah, try to position yourself, build. Don't be afraid to fail. It's a learning experience, and don't be too hard on yourself, and know that it's going to be a lot of work. That's like, it just will be. But since it is a passion, usually that work is not too bad, but it can get tiresome after a while too.
For sure. I guess to add on also, like that to have that vision, to that longevity, be able to see it through, but also at the same time setting shorter checkpoints or whatnot, so you could see these pieces of progress. Because as we highlighted before, the results come in. You don't know when the results come, and it can come in slowly. So being able to set these metrics / checkpoints for yourself, you can identify these areas of growth, even though it might not be as visible. But just being able to do it. And similar to what Emil is saying, like the only way to learn is through, well, the best way to learn sometimes can be through mistakes. One great thing about the esports community is they are very understanding towards the grassroots orgs that are coming up. So for me, when I've previously done events, and I've had events where they have flopped, I've had production where they weren't perfect, and everyone is, they understanding. They support it. They appreciate even the idea of taking initiative to start something like this. So yeah, just go for it. The worst that can happen is you just don't make an esports org at the end of the day, but at least you could say you tried.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to add even more on that, it's like, I think for me, I wanted to start so long. I was like, okay, this is, like this really cool space, but I'm not quite sure like where to start. So I think I just wasted, lots of time just thinking about it, and like, okay, I need to enter into esports, but I have to have this like this whole thing. I have to have, okay, maybe I do like a team, but then I need to have all these people, and I don't I really don't know what to kind of do. And so I think maybe thinking about it too much, and thinking, oh yeah, this would be really cool, but then not really doing anything can also just kind of hurt yourself. So yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to just trying to start small and just kind of go and just start something, because yeah, I mean, yeah, worst thing you do is you just don't do it. As said.
I mean, real, yeah. And I, as much as passion is a huge part, I guess, of the process of finding your own org, I guess I'll quickly pivot to another aspect of it, which I know you guys have touched on, what the more, I guess, business side, the more funding side, which I understand can be a pitfall for organizations. So I guess I'm curious, like when it comes to like funding or looking for grants or things like that, like how do you guys kind of approach like how you market your organizations and your brands to like so that it's more appealing for like the funds and grants and sponsors that you want to get.
I mean, I guess I can start because unfortunately for us, still don't really know. So but something that I think you can look at is it is hard to get sponsorship dollars, but that doesn't mean you can still reach out to these companies to get like merchandise. Especially early on, they're going to be more willing to give you these merchandise, give you stuff to hand out. It is just in this background image, there's like a table full of merchandise, and so I was able to give that out to hand that out. And so yeah, I mean, starting off, I think that's like a really great way is to then ask for items, and then once you have these then you can then say, hey, this was really good. Then that brand is going to be okay, yeah, these guys are real, and then maybe then you can then reach out again to try and get that sponsorship dollars. But I mean, for us, I mean, that's kind of where we're at, is just kind of getting not so much money at this stage. But yeah, I mean, I think you can still get lots of good stuff by just asking these brands for free things.
Yeah, what Jack's saying actually does happen quite a lot within the grassroots space. A lot of orgs actually do reach out initially to sponsors, not necessarily asking for cash support, but more so just like X deals, whether through any kind of merchandise or goodies or whatever they have, just to help get their brand with the org to show that case of credibility. I know for us, something we're pushing heavily for is we're trying to move towards more content this year. As well as just staying consistent with community activations. I think these are two heavy things that sponsors do look for. So if we're able to get the right recipe for that, and we're able to put ourselves in the right spotlights, hopefully we're able to, and for anyone as well, hopefully they're able to also pull in whatever goals they're trying to get for with sponsors, just even having their name, but yeah.
Yeah, content is king, as Bill Gates once said, and more recently Tarek. Yeah, I think you have to see your organization as like different verticals, and why I was talking about earlier about surrounding yourself with the gaps that you have, right? So there's a lot of stuff in running an org that is a lot of work, one of which is socials and graphic design, one of which is running teams and competitions and managing those players that are often, not excessively mature as far as their communicating with you goes. And then another pillar is all the business stuff, which is, yeah, let's make some money. That can be fun, or you should find someone who wants to really dedicate the time to it. There's a structured approach to business development that is absolutely no fun if you don't like it. It's a numbers game. You need to do a lot of things to get to where you want to go. Starting small is obviously a great approach. But regardless of where you're starting, you need to understand, who am I speaking to, what am I selling, and why should they be buying what I'm selling? So esports comes with a really, really interesting submarket of people. Basically, everyone is playing video games now. A large portion of the younger generation is watching esports. Those viewers are excessively difficult to target. They have ad blockers. They don't have cable. They're not reading magazines. They don't get ads. So it's actually a really interesting market for a lot of companies. And as soon as you can demonstrate that to a company, you've already hit one of their checkpoints. The other one is, why me? Why not somewhere else? We pivoted very quickly from competitive teams to, like Eric just mentioned, content. And like Jack is doing, events. Events will get you eyeballs. If you organize a tournament, there will be way more people watching that tournament than there will be your Counter-Strike team that's playing an ESEA event. Those people will drag in their 10, 20, 30 friends. The tournament, if you get 16 teams to sign up, now you have 16 times 5 probably watching, plus all their friends, so you get a lot more viewership. You make those recurring events, you can start selling that to sponsors by under-promising, over-delivering. Hey, listen, if you give me, like Jack said, a case of Red Bull, a case of Guru, whatever it is for this tournament that I'm going to draw as prizes, or I'll draw in the chat, tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. Like what will make the question to ask any sponsor, what will make the sponsorship a success for you? You need to ask that question to know how to get them back in. So you ask that question, they tell you. We had Guru as our sponsor. They wanted as many people as possible to taste their products. Great, we're going to do that. In chat, draws like you guys are doing with your raffle right now for those mice, right? You get that going. You tell them, hey, look, I think we're going to have about 50 viewers on average, times 6 hours for the tournament. That's this many hours that your logo is going to be on stream, this many different people that will be in the stream, yada, yada. You do the thing, you get the sponsor, you have to report back, which a lot of people don't do. Report back. This is what you gave me. This is what I promised. Look how much beyond my promise I got. Hey, by the way, I have a tournament coming up next month. How about we do twice the cases and maybe $500 that I could do as a prize pool that will generate more teams. I'll go from 16 to 32 teams. And you grow with time. We started with a $500 sponsorship with our first sponsor. It went up to 30 grand. So iterate, understand what they want, over deliver on your promises, and put a shit ton of work into it. To get 12 sponsors, I had to write to 200. Look at your network, look at your second degree network. LinkedIn, super useful for that. Look at their websites, make a list of potential sponsors. Like Jack said, go to other events, see who's sponsoring other events, see how you differentiate yourself. It's a whole process, but if you get a person dedicated to that, you can really activate on it. It's not easy, but it's definitely doable. We were in the 5-6 figures on both my org and my esports leagues, and because we were doing a lot of that stuff. And it's not fun, but it can't be. So yeah, work hard at it if you want to get to it.
It's so interesting, like all the points you kind of mentioned, because I feel like for me, example, I'm not necessarily like a business person, I guess. Like I don't have like the business talk or whatever. So like I don't know, I think it's really interesting like learning about those different perspectives, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to really feel that way. And it's really cool seeing like how you all have different experiences, different like blah blah blah, but all at the same time, like all the same, like because it's all video games. We all love video games, yippee! But I guess as we're kind of like nearing the end of our panel, unfortunately, I was wondering if you guys had any kind of like closing thoughts, words. Maybe there's something that you want to talk about that I didn't ask. Maybe there's something you just want to say to people who want to start their own org. The floor is yours. I'll start with Jack this time.
Yeah, I mean, as kind of we said it, it's starting. I think that is so important. It's something that I wish that I did, didn't take as long to just start something. And I think it's important too, because we're talking about esports, we're talking about how you're basically not going to make money, or, it's going to be very hard. When you're starting this, don't make it feel like don't make it, I guess, you're doing this because you love esports and you just love that game. So have fun with it, and building that is so important, that you're building something to have fun. And then if it turns into something that will make money, or that's just going to, turn into something where you can't do it full time, then that's just a great added bonus. But that's, I think, at like its core is just starting and have fun.
And Eric, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I guess like what Jack is saying, actually starting it, is very important. If you ever get hesitation, just go through with it. As we mentioned before and highlighted, the best way is to learn from your mistakes. And also what Jack was saying, what I was gonna say as well, is to find a way to enjoy the process, to have fun with it, because like it's really a long process, and you never know. Like esports is meant to be fun, but behind the scenes, it's not always sunshines and rainbows. So if you're able to find a way to fall in love with the process, the grind, like getting these sponsors, whatever it is you gotta do, like it's great. It really it is very rewarding. The little hints of recognition. Seeing your players, hit their milestones, get scholarships, whatever it may be. It's very rewarding. And just, yeah, hope to be in the shoe to be able to do that more.
Yeah, the find the fun part is the most crucial, absolutely, and keep it fun. Me, all the projects I let go is because they just weren't fun anymore. People ask me like, "Oh, you stopped because you didn't have the money, you didn't have a player." It's like, no, it just wasn't fun, so I stopped. So that's definitely the most crucial one. The other one I would say probably the best way to keep it fun is surround yourself with the right people. If you do a lot of stuff you don't like doing, it won't be fun. If you got biz dev and you hate biz dev, it's not going to be fun. If you hate socials, you got to do socials, it won't be fun. If you hate graphic art, so surround yourself with like a good group. You definitely have to be a jack of all trades, but I think you need a group of people. Plus, having a group that you become friends with keeps it, upbeat. Because, like Eric said, like it's not always rainbows and sunshines, and you will get those really immature or really angry people. Even if you do everything you can to please everyone, there's always going to be people who are unhappy, and usually those people are the loudest. So you kind of overhear, you hear too much of the negative side and don't get enough of the positive. So passion project, keep it fun, surround yourself with the right people.
And with that note, that is really the end of our panel. So yeah, thank you guys so much, Jack, Emil, Eric, for coming on to talk with me and share your wisdom with everyone. In hearing all about your mix of passion and business, and then also like the nitty gritty with esports work. But I guess before I really close off everything for now, I will do our little our little obligatory sponsor read from BMO, who is one of our sponsors for CIE. And I guess for folks who don't know, with BMO, to help you focus on what's important, BMO has checking and savings accounts, credit cards, and borrowing options specifically designed for students. Open a BMO student account and get up to $950 in value, including $175 cash with BMO's current student offers. Visit bmo.com/students for details, or type !BMO or !BMO next level in the chat for more details. And we also have One of Zero, who One of Zero has supplied CIE with 6 gaming mice that make you better at what you do. Type !raffle in the main channel chat for a chance to win one of 6 gaming mice supplied of One of Zero. Code like a maniac, design like a guru, and game like an assassin. Take pride in your setup and look good while you achieve it all. Discover your inspiration, defy definition, be One of Zero. And to learn more, type number 1 of 0, just the number 0 in chat. Thank you guys so much again for coming to the panel. And we still have a lot more coming up for today. Day 4 is far from over. You can catch us at I believe it's around 8 p.m. where we'll have the Valorant Game Changers finals today. Woo-hoo! So yeah, coming back here for the main channel, come check that out. But for now, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone. And yeah, we'll see you soon again.
Bye.
Bye.